Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 207 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. A new champion has been crowned in the NASCAR Cup Series, and it is Kyle Larson getting it done in dramatic fashion. We will talk about everything that went down with Larson bringing home the title, Ryan Blaney's win, and heartbreak for Denny Hamlin once again. An 0-2 familiar sight for him in NASCAR's season finale. We'll talk about all of that coming up in just a matter of moments. News and notes, we'll have the latest headlines in the sport. The GOAT is racing for the first time in his hometown. More on that. Also, look back at the NASCAR Banquet. Some lawsuit news to get to. We'll have our mailbag segment at the end of today's show as well. Dominic Aragon is here with me. Matt Kemp also in the house as well. Dom, let's get to the biggest news of the day. Right there from Phoenix, all eyes were on this just fantastic race that featured none other than the sightings of Sydney Sweeney and Sophie Cunningham.
Sydney Sweeney was there out at the pre-race stage, and I was up there shooting about maybe a good 60, 75 feet away, and she was waving the
I'm sure you got some good photos.
She was waving the checkered flag with all four of the championship drivers there on stage. And I know there was a little bit of antics there with Austin Dillon trying to get William Byron hooked up and saying that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have nothing on these two.
So you got good photos of her, right?
Well, of the whole championship four grid, of course, too, Tyler.
Okay, I want to see those photos of Sydney Sweeney. Whatever you have, to my disposal. Maybe some future wallpaper material or something here. I do have a soft spot for Sophie Cunningham as well. I when I saw that those two were there, I'm like, damn it, I made a mistake not going to this race. I missed out on this opportunity. I was jealous of you. I was hoping that you made the most of your opportunities there with that going on. But Matt Kemp also here in the house with us as well. Matt, I know you're a married man, and Dominic is too, but. I really hope that it was a worthwhile trip here for Dom of the scene he got to witness here.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was. I don't know about you, Tyler, but I was watching the race. I don't know what was going on,
Yeah, I think Tyler had his eyes on something else there. Yes.
Hey, we were watching the race, man. It was something.
Oh yeah, about that race. Let's talk about that. Kyle Larson wins the championship, just like what we all thought, right? No, I was watching very close attention to this race from start to finish. And Dom, let's start with Denny Hamlin. Dominates this race from start to finish and was 40 seconds away from a title. 4 laps, that close. And the caution comes out. And, we can sit here. I wrote a column on this the other day, actually, at Roundtable NASCAR, which you should go read if you have not already. And I know that we've sat here. I've talked about it. You've talked about it. Matt, everybody in the NASCAR universe has bitched and moaned about this NASCAR championship format and had all sorts of excuses and things about it. We all feel the way we feel. But the championship format, Dom, is not why Denny Hamlin is not the champion of the NASCAR Cup Series today. The biggest reason he's not the champion is his own damn crew chief, Chris Gale, calling for 4 tires when Kyle Larson was out there and took 2 tires. They should have been racing, focusing on the 5 car, not the rest of the field here. That's the only car they needed to beat in that moment because the other 2 cars, the 24 as well as the 19, were non-factors at that point. And that's ultimately why I feel like it cost him this championship. It doesn't have to do with the format. It doesn't have to do with the effort Denny gave. He didn't choke in the clutch. I think his crew chief is ultimately what cost him this title. What say you?
I see your point, but it's very easy to Monday morning quarterback it after the fact too, because you look at the race Friday night with Corey Heim, and the 4-tire call was the right call to go on attack and go be on the offense. And I think Denny Hamlin and Chris Gale were thinking the same thing here, because you can just power off to the inside. And I want to say too, in his post race availability. Hamlin had said too that Logano ahead of him had gotten a better start, so they weren't able to really capitalize like they thought they would. But I do want to back it up for a second too, because that race, we of course was there to cover it. Had the pleasure and honor to shoot photos throughout the race, and like you said, Tyler, that 11 car was in its own zip code. From being down there in turns three to being perched up on the grandstands and those areas where we could go shoot photos, that 11 car had a whole entire straightaway on the entire pack. He led 208 of the 319 laps. The 11 car was just in his own time zone for sure. And those laps were counted down on pit road. And Jonathan Field, my colleague at the Racing Expert, said it really, really well. Like it went from a positive, like a cautious positivity at the 11 box. And guys, there were a bunch of people at that 11 box, probably 50 people surrounding, swarming that 11 box on pit road. And security was telling some of the fans to step back too, because it was getting swarmed. I'm there in the middle of like where turns 3 and 4 would be in the infield, the colleague pit box of EJ Allmendinger. So NASCAR, kind of some inside baseball here for our fans. If you're shooting photos and a team has fallen out of the race, once the pit box is closed up, you can go in that box and go shoot photos. So there's a few photographers. We're in there shooting and just kind of getting things ready for the end of the race. I'm positioning myself, thinking, okay, the 11 car is going to cross the line here. And then all of a sudden, in front of me, where it says restart zone, you see the 24 car in the wall, the smoke, and the caution came out. You know, okay, this race is going to overtime, and everything transpires the way it does. And on pit road post race, just everyone's surrounded around that 11 team. Guys, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but the vibe I got being around that pit crew and Hamlin going up to his crew members and giving them a hug and just embracing everyone and the tears, it honestly felt like being at a funeral is the best way I could describe it. You go from this cautious positivity and optimism 10 minutes before, and it really felt like that 10 minutes later. It was a 180 shift in mentality. And I don't know if TV really did it justice, but you could just tell the swarm of media, this not just that, but the swarm of the close associates of the 11 team. You really felt that on pit road. I can't say I felt something like that energy that team was giving off ever, at least being at a racetrack that I've covered races at. It was something to unfortunately witness from their end, but it was something that was very interesting. I'm rambling at this point, but man, it was a sight to see.
So when we talk about the decision, Matt, of 4 versus 2, um, I see where Dom's saying, the Monday morning quarterbacking and all that, but like when we compare them with the 5, they knew the 5 was putting on 2 tires before they even entered the pit box, and they call 4. If they had the better car than the 5 car did, why would you not want to match the 5 car mano a mano if you know that's the only one you're racing against? And if you do the same thing, you're not giving up the track position and you already have the better car anyway. That's what doesn't add up to me here.
Yeah, Tyler, honestly, I agree with both of you guys. Really, truly. Hindsight's always 2020, but 100%. The 11 had the 5. The only one that was even remotely close to the 11 all day, I felt like was the 24. And obviously he was in the fence, and I'm like, well, as long as he can beat Larson, he's pretty much got this thing in the bag. So uh, like I said, hindsight's always 2020, but I 100% agree. It's like you had the opportunity. You had that front pit stall. The 5 was pitted so far back. They were 5 car was already leaving their stall by the time Hamlin was pulling in. There's no reason they shouldn't have known. So at that point, man, in how important track position is in the next gen era, I'm very surprised by that call. In the moment, I thought 4 tires was the call. I also didn't think like 8 cars or whatever it was were going to stay out or had 2 tire stops on top of that. So, um, and either way, no matter what, in hindsight, obviously, 2 tires was the call, right? And Denny Hamlin was going to be a champion as a driver, and this time he didn't choke it away, and he kind of felt like he just had it taken right out of his hands, honestly.
I said in real
Heartbreaker.
time, I said in real time he needed to go 2 tires, but knowing that they were competing with the 5, the call should be whatever the 5 does. We're going to match
100%.
and just keep, especially since you knew that you had that eyesight and communication that you could match whatever they were going to do, but ultimately they did not do that. As far as Chris Gale goes, let's talk about him for a second. I know the 11 team was fantastic this year. 6 wins, great season. You know, replaces Chris Gabehart and who went to the competition director role. And when he moved into that role, Denny said publicly that he wasn't a fan of changing crew chiefs at this point in his career, that made him nervous. And now we see the decision that was made, that the number one person to blame, the number one reason why Denny Hamlin is not a champion today is because of his crew chief. Then raise the question, whether it's fair or not to ask, it's worth bringing up. Was that a fireable offense on the part of Chris Gale to make that call? I know it's a judgment call, but this is a make or break business. This is what, you're you make those decisions, those moments. I compared it to, it's like when Pete Carroll decided to have Russell Wilson throw the football in the Super Bowl and it was picked out by Malcolm Butler instead of handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. It was the exact same call, I felt like. I would say that, Dom, I wouldn't call it fireable, but it is something where, like, you just sit there and you just say, it didn't have to be this way. And like, we have nobody to blame but ourselves for this decision.
And I see where you're coming from too. But the other side of that too, maybe they were thinking it was going to be a multi-caution type deal. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the truck race went to 2 overtimes. So even with all that said, and they're processing 1,000 thoughts a second, maybe Chris Gale and team, and he's got all he's his people in his ear from the war room and on the other side of the country and in Huntersville, North Carolina, talking to him. Maybe they're thinking this race is going to have a couple of overtimes. We know cars have stayed out. We need to be in the best equipped position. If we have 4 tires versus 2, he can take his 2, but we're going to have 4. We can go on offense. I truly think it was an offensive call, and I think in the back of their minds thinking that there was going to be multiple cautions that would potentially display in this overtime period, which it didn't happen. But nonetheless, you want your driver as prepared as possible. I think that was the call on that. And I'm sure Joe Gibbs and Denny Hamlin and everyone on that 11 team are going to stand by that decision that Chris Gale had made. Again, looking back on it, maybe not the right call, but in the moment, it seemed like it would be.
All right, let's talk about Denny, kind of his legacy for a moment, and then we'll get to Kyle Larson, talk plenty about the champion too, folks. But we're not taking anything away from Kyle Larson, but the bigger story is Denny Hamlin losing this title more than Kyle Larson winning this title. And some people might not like to hear that, but that's just the truth of the matter here. Denny, 60 wins, still no championship. Comes that close. Matt, he said a long time ago, he's already accepted the fact that he very well might not be a NASCAR Cup Series champion. Um, we saw him have one of the best seasons of his entire career this year, and it wasn't good enough. And, some people will point to that, well, Denny didn't deserve to win the championship anyway, because if you look at actual pure points, he wasn't even in the top 5 in pure points. Remember, he missed the Mexico City race, of course, because the birth of his kid. But even if he had run that race, he still wouldn't have come close to, having a points lead or something. But nonetheless, Matt, I look at Denny, and you know, it's likely at this point he's not going to be a champion. But I still see, and people might have a problem with me saying this. I still see a champion race car driver when I look at Denny Hamlin, even if he's never holds the Bill France Cup in his hands. He's won the biggest races. He's competed for all these titles and just had some bad luck that didn't go his way. Maybe Denny isn't going to have that championship added to his resume, but for me, he's still one of the all-time greats. Some guys are, uh, you know, I would say some guys are Troy Aikman and other guys are Dan Marino. And it sucks, but he's kind of Dan Marino, but that doesn't mean he's not an all-time great.
This was a lot different than his previous attempts at championships. This time, I mean, they had the dominant car. He won his way in first. It seemed like everything was just lining up perfect for him. The storylines, the momentum, everything was just right for that team. They had the best car by a lot. It wasn't even a little bit. And he was beating everybody, including the Penske cars, which it was just by complete irony that the Penske car ended up coming through and winning the race. But, um, you know, he just he had such a perfect day going and everything seemed to be going his way. And it just kind of all got ripped away from him right at the end. So that's why this one really is just such a big deal and so different than the other ones. And you could just see it. Like when you say that you see a championship race car driver, it's just like Carl Edwards in 2016. I feel like it's very comparable to that scenario where they were there, they had it pretty much locked up. All they had to do is get around a few more laps to the checkered, and they were a champion. And then a late caution comes out and takes them right out of it. So, um, from in his mind, I'm sure. I don't know. I don't even know what he's thinking. Obviously, he's got a lot of pain going on, and a lot of thinking, um, a lot to get over here, and reasonably so. But uh, yeah, he's definitely a champion race car driver, and obviously, like you said, what was it, 40 seconds away from being a Cup champion?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I was feeling for Denny, that it ended the way it did,
I think everybody was like Dom said, even on pit road, it was just he said like a funeral. I mean, literally, I can tell you what I was when I was watching him come down, uh, on that restart, coming to the white flag. I'm like, oh man, this is like holy smokes. I was almost in disbelief. I can only imagine what he was feeling. I was almost in disbelief watching. I'm like, wow, he's really not going to win it. Then he comes off of turn two and with no shot at Larson. I'm like, wow, like it was just sinking in. Like, holy cow, he's really not going to win it. Like this is insane. So I can only imagine what he's feeling.
Dom, let's talk about the champion, Kyle Larson now. Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels made a great call, going two tires, had a decent restart there, and took advantage of the high line. Kyle Larson gets the job done. And, I look at Larson this year. This was not his most impressive year by any stretch of the imagination. I felt like, Tom, we saw a different version of Kyle Larson in 2025 than we've seen in years past, where, you know, you go back to the first championship he had when he won so many races and was just driving like a madman and all over the track. And, the last few years we've seen him kind of reckless of sorts. And this year, sure, they didn't have the wins that they were hoping for. It's just 3 wins. Hadn't won since the Kansas race in May, but they were running consistent and they always had good points days and they always had chances to win. And believe it or not, folks, he had the most points of anybody uh, this season when you combine the regular season and the playoffs without even factoring who won the race or anything like that. Just on a pure points total, he would have been your NASCAR Cup Series champion. Now, the old Winston system would have been Christopher Bell, but of just combining regular season and playoff points of this current system, that goes to Kyle Larson. With that said, Dom, like Kyle is it's not the most impressive championship run we've seen from him or from anybody for that matter, but I mean, he still had a very good, solid, consistent season. And, you know, I thought at this point in his career he would be a two-time champion. I just didn't think that this was going to be the second of his championships, if that makes sense, in my eyes.
By the time the second championship rolled around, he's no longer young money. He's middle age money, as he referred to in his speech there at the awards banquet earlier this week. But nonetheless, it wasn't the most impressive. But on the counter of that, too, Tyler, he led over 1,000 laps, which him and William Byron, I believe, were the only two drivers to do that this year. Steven Toronto, friend of the show, had pointed out, too, that this was the first time in this playoff format, Chase era, since Tony Stewart in 2005, where the champion did not win a race during the playoff stretches or the chase stretch of races, which he didn't. Talladega was very close. It's another story. But the fact that Kyle Larson still put up a bunch of points, collected stage points, had a high average finish, led laps, showed up when it counted. He did what his team needed to do, and a two-time champion now. Like we know Kyle Larson was going to probably be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame on a first ballot, but a two-time champion now. You've distinguished yourself, that you've done this before, you've been there before, and you're just getting started now at 33 years old. Tyler, maybe by the time it's all said and done, because Jeff Gordon was asked this too on Sunday, like, what would it mean for Kyle to tie you or keep chasing you in titles? He goes, I want Kyle to win as many championships as he can while he's racing here at Hendrick Motorsports. I don't care if he passes me or not, because the whole organization wins in that situation. And we know that the tools are there for Hendrick Motorsports to continue pumping out race victories and championships. And I think Kyle even said a couple weeks ago, Tyler, that one of the goals would be is to be about 60 wins, or to pass Tony Stewart, I should say. So about 49, 50 wins in the Cup Series. He's easily going to get that.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to race forever either at the Cup level, because he wants to do the sprint car thing, and he's got other interest out there. And so if he can get to that level, that would be a fantastic career. But with that said, Matt, you look at Kyle Larson, now a two-time champion. We've heard all this talk about, is he the best driver in the world? How's he compare with Max Verstappen and all this? But I see a guy that I would say that his best racing is still in front of him, because uh, this was just a 3-win year this year. I think that we're likely going to see, might be a year from now, might be 5 or 10 years from now, Kyle Larson's probably going to have another big 8, 9, 10 win season of some sorts again. He still hasn't won the Daytona 500 yet. I mean, there's still a lot to be done. If I know that we got a lot of good drivers and a lot of good competition right now, but I don't know if he's the best driver in the world necessarily, but I'm not saying this just because he's a champion. I think without question he's the best driver in the sport right now for sure.
I would say for sure, based on results, and I mean, obviously he can hop into anything, and that's kind of his draw for anybody. But I think you're spot on with kind of where he's at right now, and ultimately that he's kind of at the best place he's ever been in his career. Obviously with Hendrick, and has all the experience, and really is just has a lot of great rapport with his team. It really seems like him and Cliff Daniels are just hitting on all cylinders, even though they haven't won in half a season at this point. I wouldn't doubt if they come out next year swinging and, like you said, rack up a bunch of wins and keep the titles flowing for them, because I would definitely say their trajectory is still on the up and up, and uh, wouldn't doubt if he ends up getting closer to Jeff Gordon's championship total by the end of his career. But this next gen era is hard. Who knows what they're going to do with the championship format, and there's a lot of factors still, but they're absolutely capable of quite a few more championships.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And two titles now for Kyle Larson. He's in his mid 30s at this point in time. Um, there's a lot of good going, and you think about where he's come from. Started at Ganassi, and survives cancel culture and ends up at Hendrick Motorsports and wins that first title, and has been consistent year in and year out, and now getting this second title here. Uh, Dom, I feel like you will never hear Kyle say this, but I feel like almost to an extent that Kyle can kind of he and Cliff Daniels can kind of catch their breath a bit. With all of this talk, with all this hype about the greatest driver in the world conversation and doing the Indy 500 double and all that. He's not going to do the double next year. Now that he's got the two championships, he's already done the double the last 2 years. Now I feel like Kyle can go back to kind of being, the bread and butter racer that he was, when he won that first championship, and that fire that was there. Like, I feel like to an extent, Kyle can kind of relax a bit now.
Because let's be honest too, May kind of put a damper on everything with the weather and the circumstances, and it kind of put the team into a little bit of a slump. And Hendrick and Gordon themselves did not shy away from that when they were talking about that last week in availabilities. But you don't have to worry about the month of May like you've had the last 2 years. You get to go be dirt track racer Kyle Larson. You get to go be Cup Series racer Kyle Larson. There's no back and forth with crazy logistics, and man, it's back to like a reset button too. And there's just something about Cliff Daniels too. And Matt, I'd be curious your take on this, because you've worked with crew chiefs, you work with people that set up the cars. Cliff Daniels, there's just something about him where he's able to pull the best out of his crew guys, out of Kyle Larson. He's a good coach in the sorts that he's able to just get the most out of his players and or out of his team members, I should say, and his driver. And I found it fascinating too that he required his crew guys to read books throughout the year, which you don't necessarily probably wouldn't associate with pro sports, but Rick Hendrick had talked about that too. Just Cliff has this way of getting his guys really organized and really rallying behind the team and buying into what they're selling.
Yeah, he really does. He's got just kind of that demeanor to him. He's just really calm under pressure. It seems like anytime they face any kind of adversity, Cliff's always there to say, "Hey man, keep your head up. We got this. We're still in it." And he was doing it again Sunday after they blew that tire and had to take the wave around and came back and ended up winning the thing. So I think that demeanor goes a long way. And uh you can kind of tell with him, and it's something that I think benefits that team a great deal. And between his demeanor and then Larson's raw talent, I think you've got a really dangerous combination um, coming up over the next few years. But I thought it was really interesting that you mentioned May, Tyler, because honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I personally felt like that whole five team, even though it was kind of out of their control, I felt like the confidence level like just was shattered. I mean, I felt like they lost a ton of confidence. And really, like when you think about it, it really like I know it sucked, but and it was kind of related, not out of their control, but it still felt like it just took the wind out of their sails. And I would personally blame their summer on that, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right
Mhm.
about that. The other two, let's talk about them real quick that came up short. William Byron and Chase Briscoe, Matt, both of them, I don't think they have anything to hang their hats on at all. Um, William Byron, back-to-back Daytona 500s. Chase Briscoe, a breakout season for him in his first year at JGR. Both of them making the championship four. I think Byron is getting very close to getting that first championship. Could have been this year, might be next year. Chase Briscoe certainly is ascending upwards, and they got a lot of momentum there. It wasn't their day Sunday, but I think both of them can be very pleased with how their seasons went.
Oh yeah, no question. I feel like first year at any organization. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Kyle Larson's first year at Hendrick, they went and won 10 races in the championship, but
Yeah, then you had
uh,
Harvick's first year SHR was something too.
well, I mean, yeah, for sure. And at some point, either way, making the championship four in this current format, having a shot. And I'll be honest with you, I was more impressed with the 19 team, I think, than anybody on Sunday. I think they blew what, three or four tires, and they came back from all of it and had a shot just about at the end. So it was just crazy to watch. And talk about a team facing adversity and overcoming it. That 19, that would have been an incredibly impressive run if they were able to cap it off with a championship. But William Byron the same way. What is it? Three championship, four appearances in a row. So, I mean, that's pretty incredible stuff from him as well. So, like we talked about last week, this championship four, it was kind of up in the air and four really, really good candidates for a NASCAR Cup Series champion. So, uh, just happened to be the guy who had already won one. So, either way, I think, like you said, they've got a lot to be proud of this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right about that. Guys, let's move on to our news and notes. We don't have a race to preview this week, but I'm sure we have plenty to talk about. Dom, where do we want to start?
For the NASCAR Awards Banquet capping off this week in Phoenix and Scottsdale, Arizona. The NASCAR Awards Banquet capped off, which is usually held in December, now 2 days after the NASCAR Championship weekend at Phoenix Raceway, taking place at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge in Scottsdale or Phoenix. There in Arizona, all three National Touring Series champions were crowned with Corey Heim, Jesse Love, and Kyle Larson giving their speeches, and the Championship 4 drivers as well as various other awards that were handed out. Now, the award ceremony itself, done on the NASCAR channel. Perhaps a shell of its former self, Tyler. We talked about it weeks ago how this used to be on ABC and a made for TV event. It's still a made for TV event on a national audience, but in a much smaller capacity. And guys, I can say personally too, being there at the awards banquet in the red carpet, it'd been years since I'd been to an awards banquet, but it was really cool to see how NASCAR had put on a season-ending type of event to just kind of cap off the season and it gives the off season, I think, a little more time to breathe. We have 14 weeks till the Daytona 500.
Yeah, yeah. 14 weeks till Daytona. Matt, as a driver, this This offseason, I imagine, goes pretty quick.
Yeah, it goes really, really quick when you are just chasing sponsors the whole off season. By time it seems like it can't be long enough, to be honest with you. But um, no, it always used to feel, as a fan, I always used to feel like it could be shorter. But now I'm like, oh man, yeah, I see why we could use 14 weeks for sure. But we'll be in, like you said earlier, Tyler, before we started, we'll be in Daytona before you know it.
Yes. Yes, we will. We will indeed. Uh, Dom, where do we want to go to next?
Well, continue on that trajectory. Chase Elliott, Rajah Caruth, and Justin Allgaier winning their respective most popular driver awards in their series. Chase Elliott winning for the eighth time in a row. Now that's half of what his dad did. Bill Elliott 16 times, which is the NASCAR all-time record in the Cup Series. Dale Earnhardt Jr. the second most at 15, but Chase winning for the eighth straight year. I will say, guys, he was not there to claim his award. My understanding was that he was in Jamaica on some sort of vacation or something. There was a pre-planned thing, so he was not at the awards banquet earlier this week. But nonetheless, are we surprised? Are we shocked? Because in the back of my head, I was thinking maybe there's a small chance that Denny Hamlin might give it a run for his money, but Chase Elliott comes out on top.
No, no surprise that Chase Elliott gets it done. And it's so wild to me, Matt. Like I have no issues with Chase Elliott. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I wouldn't say, I'm a hater either. But this is a guy that he's boring as can be. His dad was a popular racer. He replaced Jeff Gordon, and he also showed up around the same time, close to when Dale Earnhardt Jr. retired. I mean, all of it was just the perfect storm for Chase Elliott, and the fan base has stayed with him ever since.
Yeah, and I actually do question, and it does seem like he's not as engaged as a lot of other drivers, which, hey, power to him. Like he has the opportunity to kind of live his life, and that's the way he wants to do it, and he should be able to live his life how he wants to do it. But um, I do wonder without being super engaged with fans, and I know he does things. It's not like he does nothing, and he still is a likable driver, I'd say. Still pretty competitive, more competitive, arguably, than Dale Jr. was towards the end of his career. But I do wonder how long that kind of that past family history will carry him as the most popular driver, if it's going to be close. Um, Here in the next 5, 10 years, if maybe somebody can come and snatch that from him. But at this rate, I think we're on trajectory of maybe him going for that record that his dad set.
Dom, you brought up Denny Hamlin here, and the fans really came around on Denny this season. I think a lot of it had to do with trying to win a championship for his dad and all of that. I think that played a big factor. But, you know, he's embraced being this heel character the last few years. Even this season he did, with 11 against the world. I beat your favorite driver. Sorry, Dad, all that again. And it makes me think, like, if Denny all of a sudden is liked and is thought of as a good guy, who's the heel now? Who's the bad guy if Denny's the good guy all of a sudden?
Maybe if Kyle Busch starts winning some more races again, Kyle Busch will revert back to that villain role.
Yeah, maybe. There's
Carson
That's who
Hocevar.
immediately comes to mind. But yeah, maybe it's a temporary thing here with Denny Hamlin too. The fans are going to probably go back to disliking him once he starts knocking off 3, 4 wins in April and May of next year.
Matt, do we have a void when it comes to the villain right now?
I don't think so. I think Denny's kind of locked into that good guy role, Dom. I don't know if he's going to go back the other way, but I think Carson Hocevar is well on his way to being in that position.
What happened to everybody hating on Ross Chastain? That simmered down a bit too.
Well, he's calmed down a little bit. I think they
I
kind of
don't think
neutered
he
him a little
wanted
bit.
to be the bad guy necessarily either.
I don't think so either. I don't think he wanted to lean into that role maybe, and that's why he's calmed down some. But uh, I don't know. He was getting pretty popular for a while there. I can't be bad for your career, I guess. I mean, unless you're reckon, I don't know. Darlington was probably not good for his career when he went up and took himself in a 5 out at Darlington last year. So I can, I'd say that was probably what did it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. What else we got?
Some news that will probably make Matt Kemp really happy, or at least the race fan Matt Kemp extremely happy. Jimmy Johnson's not done. We knew that he was going to have inklings of running some races in 2026, but officially announced on Wednesday, November 5th, his intention to run the Coronado Naval Base road course event on Father's Day weekend in 2026. Jimmy Johnson announced of course, being from California in this race, calling it a quote unquote bucket list type of event. So Jimmy Johnson will be racing at least one time in 2026. Tyler, let's be real here. Johnson's probably going to attempt the Daytona 500 as well as other races. And he didn't allude to this would be like a final start of sorts. And he has said that he has wanted to run more races as long as he can. But we at least know one race is locked in for the 7-time champion, and that being in his home state of California.
Yeah, this is really cool for Jimmy. El Cajon is just right outside of San Diego there. Um, in San Diego, I should say, getting to have this race. I hope Ron Burgundy's involved of sorts, Father's Day weekend. I'm planning to be at this race myself. And I think it's going to be awesome. Like it to kind of put in perspective, this would be if like Michael Jordan at the very end of his career decided to play a game, an NBA game in his hometown or something. I mean, like this is super cool. And you know, I'll I'll put it a step further here. Like, guys, we're not guaranteed to see Jimmy do these part-time runs very often anymore. Um, and outside last year's Daytona 500, the part-time stuff at Legacy Motor Club's been pretty bad for Jimmy, to be honest. If I were Jimmy, I would make that last race in my hometown, Matt, my final start. I would say this is gonna be it for me in the NASCAR Cup Series. There's one more race, and it's gonna be in my home city here in San Diego.
Well, Dom was spot on in saying that I am very excited to see Jimmy back, and I always will be. I don't care if he's running dead last. If he's out on the track, I'm gonna be happy about it. The ship I think has sailed about the argument Denny was making a few years ago about the legacy and not wanting to tarnish that or whatever. I don't know. I think he's good. I think he can do whatever he wants, and if he can, whether he's running last or compete for a Daytona 500 win, I'm gonna be happy to see him out there. And so, no, I hope he does not call it a career after it, but I'll be honest with you, it might be a fitting way to go out if he does it.
And I don't think he can hear Denny over those 7 championship trophies between him and just saying. I think there's 7 degrees of championship separating the two.
There you
Tom,
go.
could you see that being the final start for Jimmy in his home city?
So he got asked that in a press conference. There was a Zoom conference about this 6 months ago when they announced the race, and Johnson was a part of it. And he had said, "I truly had not thought about that," but that was 6 months ago. That probably has weight on him. It would be fitting if that's his final start, but heck, we've seen Cup guys go into their mid and late 50s. David Starr still running some Cup races at 57, 58 years old. Johnson turned 50 this year. So in theory, he could run a lot longer. Harry Gant won at 53, 54. Maybe Jimmy Johnson wants to go for that record of being the oldest Cup Series winner. He almost did in this year's Daytona 500, winning at 49, being one of the older guys to do it. So I feel like that third place finish kind of lit more of a fire under his butt to run more race. I don't know about you guys, but I think that third place run really kind of re-sparked some of this.
Yeah.
Bring him back full time. Full time, 2026. Come on.
Hey, Legacy wants that third charter. Put Jimmy Johnson in.
Hey, I would be very happy about that.
Like a reunion type of tour, like the Salute to You tour. I mean, Mark Martin did that in
The
05. But
first
Exactly.
full-time NASCAR Hall of Famer in the Cup Series.
quite the story.
I love it.
All
Well,
right.
make it happen.
Anything else? We got some lawsuit stuff to catch up on.
Oh, where do we begin with that, Tyler? 'Cause I feel like there's so much every week. By the time the show comes out, we have so much more that has to get covered on that. But at the time of this taping, looking at just some of the different drops in the court news with NASCAR and the 2311 in front row versus NASCAR lawsuit earlier this week. And in fact, this happened at the awards banquet earlier this week where Judge Bell had issued a summary judgment, essentially saying, Tyler, that the definition of the market has been defined. I don't want to get this wrong because I don't have the notes in front of me, word for word, but that essentially what other reporters were kind of gathering with this is that NASCAR cannot argue in the court that, oh, well, if 2311 and Front Row Motorsports don't like the terms of this, they can just go run F1 or IndyCar, that this is a clearly defined market. So it seems like every turn, Tyler, and I know the trial, if we go to trial, is going to be a way bigger thing to unpack, but every little summary judgment we have gotten, it seems like is ruling in the favor at this time for the teams.
Yeah. And now we are countdown clock is really ticking. Um, it NASCAR, the way that they were talking, they were kind of putting the pressure on the team saying that, hey, they need to come to us and negotiate, figure out a deal, try to get a settlement and all this. And now that we're less than a month away from that December 1st deadline, Matt, I think things have flipped of sorts. I think 2311 feel and front row feel they feel really good about their spot that they're in right now. I think the pressure's on NASCAR to get a settlement here.
Yeah, and I don't know if they necessarily feel really good by any means, but I bet you they feel a lot better than they have previous because I feel like the momentum has definitely sw shifted. I think, NASCAR kind of had a little more momentum towards the end of the summer, and then as of late, it's kind of shifted in a big way towards the teams. So, uh, not feeling good by any means, especially I think like Denny said, one of them's on a suicide mission. So, uh, that clock's ticking, and they better figure something out here pretty soon.
Well, and Dom, I know you've been studying this so close too. Let's say that they don't settle, and if NASCAR, lost and they ruled in favor of 2311 in front row, there's still a world where 2311 in front row, they aren't completely out of the woods yet, where NASCAR could find ways to retaliate or potentially get rid of the charter system altogether. I mean, you know, like if NASCAR doesn't get what they want, they won't go down without swinging.
No, and there's appeals processes too. So no matter
Right.
who loses on this, you can end up going to different appeals court. And I think even NASCAR had mentioned in one of their statements this week that they look forward to doing something potentially with the Fourth Circuit of Appeals. So this is not by any stretch of the imagination over by any day and months. It does go to trial. Let's say it goes to trial and it rules in one way or the other. The other side's going to appeal. That's going to be drawn out for months and months. Like we had Carl Long on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about that as well. So this thing is not over by any way. It might just be getting started. But another theory that got brought up too, Tyler, and I know you've studied a little bit of law, so maybe you might know a little bit on this as well too, at least sports law and kind of some of these cases. But let's say this thing does go to trial, and then during the trial process they want to reach some sort of settlement. My understanding is that, and kind of talking with other reporters about this, that you could kind of have like a maybe plea deal is not the right way, but like how you have like trials go to trial and then plea deals come up. Could something like that happen where we do go to trial, but then some sort of agreement is reached in the trial process?
That very well could happen. Um, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows. I think we all lean towards that a settlement is going to be reached, but uh, I'm I think I'm still thinking it's going to be an 11th hour settlement where NASCAR says we don't want to do this, and they find a way to make something work out because, like as you mentioned, this could drag on, not be great for everybody. So we'll see. Anything else on the news and notes front? We ready to get to the mailbag?
We're ready to get to everyone's favorite segment, the mailbag, one final time before we start going sporadic in the off season.
All right. It's time to touch our bags and drop our sacks on this mailbag segment here on Let's Go Racing, where you guys can submit questions to us each and every week on X, Facebook, and by email. And we will answer those questions for you. Whatever you guys have on your minds, feel free to send us our way. So let's get to the first question in the mailbag this week. And the first question comes from Jesus. Jesus wants to know, guys, with the news that Corey Heim is not going to run a full time schedule next year and run in all three series part time, is that a good or bad thing for him? Matt, you're the driver here. What's your thoughts on Corey Heim's kind of sporadic season that he's going with? He's not going to be competing for a championship in any of the three levels next year. Is that not good for him? What say you?
Well, being in something at the highest levels and making some cup starts, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but I'm sure it's disappointing probably on his front that he's not racing for a championship in one of the series. I don't want to speak for him by any means, but I would presume that, as a driver, you're wanting to go for a championship and wanting to compete at the highest levels. I would imagine at this point he's probably, I mean, frustrated he hasn't been in Xfinity full time or Cup full time by now. And obviously he's proven that he's more than deserving of the opportunity to do so. So hopefully that something works out for him, whether it's politics on the back end or if it's just part sponsorship money, whatever it is. Hopefully it works out for him to figure something out after next year. It feels like a waste to have him part time and not run for a championship, honestly, in the Cup Series at this point.
Yeah, I think Dom, we all agree that he's ready for Cup. No question about it. But, you know, with him signing that a development deal with 2311, everyone knows that there's limited spots. There's not really much options just when it comes to pure space for somewhere to go for him and Cup. But with that said, like you can't put him at Sam Hunt Racing or somewhere in the Xfinity Series. Like if I'm him, like yeah, I want to take all the Cup starts I can get, but don't you want to compete for in an end of season goal of sorts here? To me, like I feel like it's robbing him of an opportunity.
It could be. I also think too, this also happened to another driver too that ended up going on to be a Cup Series champion just a few short years later, and that being Ryan Blaney in 2015. Similar boat, if you guys might remember,
Yeah.
where he wasn't locked in on a full schedule, where he ran, I think, select starts at Brad Keselowski Racing in the Truck Series, and then Penske and Xfinity, and then in the Cup Series with Wood Brothers. And the limited opportunities he got, he made the most of it, and that turned in and propelled him to a full time opportunity the next year in 16, and got the Penske position in 2018. So while on one hand it sucks you're not going to be racing for a championship at this time, on the other hand, you still have an opportunity to really go showcase yourself, cherry pick, if you will. I'm going to run X amount of races in this series and that series. Corey Heim is more than capable, but I think of it like a reset, and I think of it like how that Ryan Blaney situation worked out a few years back. May not be ideal, but you're getting some starts, and you're going to make the most of them.
Uh, Matt, we've seen some guys in the Cup Series that didn't really spend a whole lot of time in Xfinity that kind of made the truck to Cup transition, or they kind of did a part-time Xfinity thing. Like right on top of my head, I think Ryan Preece never really spent time in Xfinity. Um, we didn't see a ton from Ryan Blaney, as Dom mentioned. Carson Hosefar, we didn't see a ton from. I mean, you go even further back, David Rudiman was running for Rookie of the Year in Cup and Xfinity back then. Busch at the same time. He went from truck to Cup there to Michael Waltrip Racing there. For a guy like Corey Heim, that's won so much in the Truck Series, and all three of us have said we think he's ready for Cup. Uh, would it do him any benefit? Would it be better for him to run a full Xfinity schedule this upcoming season as opposed to doing this uh, part-time thing across the board?
I kind of like what Dominic said, it being more of a reset for him. I think, if anything, if this year didn't light a fire under him, I think next year might be a good opportunity for him to kind of maybe, I don't know if he's going to be slowing down or if he's going to be racing more, kind of having that jumping around, doing the schedule like he's going to be doing it. But depending on how it runs, I mean, it could potentially be more beneficial for him if he gets more seat time because of it, runs part-time, maybe runs double, triple duty on some weekends. And um, so it could be good for him. Could be bad from the standpoint of, not running for a championship. But ultimately, I think as long as they kind of have a plan and get something together for 28, he's going to be just fine.
All right. Next question in the mailbag this week. It comes from Aiden, and Aiden wants to know, guys, what are you most looking forward to in 2026? Don, let's start with you.
Just from like any national series, like off the top of my head.
Anything. Yep.
Yeah, I think looking forward to seeing some of the schedule changes, looking at North Wilkesboro back on the schedule as a points race. First time since '96, that immediately comes to mind. Gosh, well, I think we have 3 Saturday night races on the schedule in 26, at least in the Cup side as well, or 3 night races. So those are always cool. Night racing is always awesome. You don't want to take away from your local short tracks, but there's something about Cup Series on a prime time deal, watching a race on a Saturday or Sunday night. And yeah, I think from a personal standpoint too, just continuing to work on projects and being around the sport and involved in the sport and being back at the racetrack 10, 12 races a year, like we've been trying to do it the last few years. So yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to from a professional standpoint and the on track product as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited about 2026. For me, like from a personal standpoint, um, now that I'm covering the sport full time, actually getting to be at the racetrack, this year my schedule didn't work out where it sucked. I was at the least amount of time I've been at the racetrack in a long time. I only went to one race this year. And I'm going to change that. I got that same idea Dom does. I'm going to try to go to 10 to 15 races this next year. Certainly look excited about going to San Diego and Daytona and all these different places. It's going to be a very fun year, and can't wait to get right back to the racetrack and cover it all for Roundtable Sports. So that's for me. My excitement getting back to the racetrack, and San Diego in particular is one that I got circled, and it should be a lot of fun to see that unfold. Matt, how about you? What are you most looking forward to about 2026?
I can think of a few things on the Cup side of things, between the horsepower increase, the potential new point system, whatever they come up with for that. I'm super intrigued to see what they come up with, whether it's going to be closer to what we've been hearing or something completely off the wall, I don't know. But between those two things, I think we're going to see a lot of, and plus with Goodyear and what we're seeing with tires, I think that's going to make a big difference with how the racing is all next year. And it seems like they're finally making some changes to the next gen. It kind of seems like we're going to see some change next year that's going to be really intriguing to watch. So, um, on all fronts. So it's going to be really fun to kind of see how that change goes and hopefully brings back a little more of the excitement that we've been lacking these last few years.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. So to give kind of a programming update on this show of what's ahead as we enter off-season mode, um, we are going to enjoy ourselves and our lives a bit as just kind of relax a bit ourselves. You got Thanksgiving, of course, coming up in a few weeks, Christmas after that. But we're going to check in with you ever so often throughout the off season when we have news. And, we might just have to do a whole special show when we have something on this lawsuit stuff. That might be worth a whole show in itself here. So whenever we get, something newsworthy, or if we have a big guest that wants to be here, that's kind of how things will operate. We'll kind of play it by ear over the next, couple of months. But when February rolls around and when we get here, like we're going to be ready to go. We'll have some exciting stuff coming up next season, Dom. But another year in the books doing this show with you, and we had Matt, of course, with us, and I mean, just a lot of fun continuing this thing. And now that I'm doing my thing with Roundtable, and of course with what you got on going on with the racing experts, I've said this before and I'll say it again. For me, this show is now more important than ever before because uh, now we got content from this show that we can repurpose on our websites and such that is going to be cool. So there's going to be some cool stuff ahead. I know it gets a little quieter in the off season, but we're not going anywhere by any stretch, Tom.
No, we'll be back in 2026 for our 6th year of doing this. It's been a ton of fun, and I want to take a minute here to say, Matt, thank you so much for joining us the last 12 weeks. And we've had you on over the years, but you really stepped up in the last 12 weeks, and we really appreciate that. And we're looking forward to seeing what's ahead as well.
Oh man, it's been an absolute blast, guys. These last 12 weeks covering the playoffs, and we've had a lot to talk about, fortunately, between the racing and on track stuff and off track stuff, miscellaneous stuff. So appreciate you guys for having me on. It's been a lot of fun, and uh, yeah, whatever happens next, just excited to see what direction the show goes, and again, appreciate the opportunity to be involved.
I got a funny update for y'all. So here we are in the last 12 weeks. I'll be honest. Matt and I, we didn't really know each other that well. Matt knew Dom more than he knew me, and he mentioned the miscellaneous stuff as we've gotten to know each other throughout this stretch. Matt just followed me on Instagram a couple days ago, so even after all these 12 weeks, he wants to be even better friends with me. So I take that as a compliment that I didn't scare you off, Matt.
No, no, it's all right. You were pretty close, gonna get me in trouble talking about Sydney Sweeney earlier. It was funny actually. It's funny, I'll tell you how uncultured I am. It's gonna be bad, but I was sitting on the couch and they were showing her on TV, and my wife was sitting next to me. I'm like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "You don't know who that is?" She had to tell me actually and what she was known for, and I was like, "Oh, okay,
Well, hey, to be
good
honest
to
too,
know."
there was a second name Tyler had mentioned. I don't know who the second name was. So,
Oh,
who
Sophie
was?
Cunningham. Okay,
Yeah.
she's my
I'm 0
favorite
for 2.
WNBA player.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that actually.
she she
Yeah.
she's the wallpaper on my phone right now. Actually, no joke. Um, I shouldn't even admitted that to be honest. But she was there, and I saw an interview she did with a friend of the show, Adam Alexander, and she said that she had a great time. That the people at NASCAR, those are her people. That she felt right at home. Like, well, you're more than welcome to come back anytime, Sophie. We love having you and Sydney there, and it was a great time. Dom, just the Phoenix experience for you. I know that's kind of your de facto home track. I know that was the last of the NASCAR championship being at Phoenix for now, but uh, I never got to see for myself, but it seemed like in its stretch that it got to host dating back to 2020. Phoenix did a pretty good job with hosting this championship, and I think NASCAR's mission was accomplished where they wanted to make it such a standalone. Like there's not a sponsor even on the championship race because they want that brand and they want to make it an event. And I would say that Phoenix was a big part, very successful in making it the standalone event that it is.
I think a lot too. I think a lot of people probably felt nostalgia. Well, it never really felt like the championship race weekend because you go to Homestead for 18 years, and that kind of has the vibe. And we're going to return to Miami next year for that. But yeah, I think Phoenix did serve its purpose, and we know it's going to be part. I should say it's likely going to be part of that rotation of the championship race, and whatever this next format is, and the new format we haven't seen the last of Phoenix as the final race of the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, but it was really cool to have that in my backyard, Tyler. I always joke there's only a couple race tracks. It's there, and it's Las Vegas. That if I hightail it after the race, I can sleep in my own bed after a Cup race on a Sunday night, and Phoenix is one of those. But always a pleasure going out to the desert and being in Phoenix. It's a 5.5 hour drive from where I'm at, and it's definitely the closest drive for me. So always enjoy the time out in Phoenix, but it's going to be cool to see where the race goes beyond Phoenix, beyond Homestead. I'm sure there's some other worthy tracks, kind of limited with warm weather months, but I'm sure NASCAR will get creative.
I want to
Yeah.
mention a couple things real quick about Phoenix Raceway. First thing being whoever, related to the championship four deal, and changing the point system here. Whoever thought of the championship four, that race that we saw on Sunday was the race that they pictured in their head. Because I'll be honest with you, the championship four were four wide at one point. Phoenix has put on a lot of snoozers, to be honest with you, over the years. But quite frankly, as of late, with these tire compounds, that race was pretty exciting, and obviously the finish was a thriller that most of us were caught up with the championship battle and didn't quite get to enjoy as much as we probably should have. But
Oh yeah,
so
we didn't even
Phoenix,
mention that, man. That Ryan
power to
Blaney won.
Phoenix. Yeah,
Ryan
I know.
Blaney won his
Hey,
fourth
and
race.
by the way, last week, who was it that said that the champion wouldn't win the race?
Not Dominic.
Uh,
Matt did.
I believe that's correct.
And you picked Blaney too, didn't you?
I I don't know. Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was a Penske car.
I feel like you did pick Blaney. Yeah,
We're gonna say for the sake of don't even. I'm not gonna look at the receipts. I'm just gonna assume I was right. We're
but
gonna
I
go
think
with
you're
that.
assuming right though, because I'm pretty sure Tyler he did pick Blaney.
But then remember, he hedged his bet and he picked Hamlin in the next segment to cover
We
his
gotta
base.
stop remembering these things. All right. We stop at the Blaney part. We can move on. We got it.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
And that
guys.
was another point of the show too, Tyler. I think I was telling Matt too, like, man, you can tell there's good back and forth for not knowing each other over the last 2 weeks. You guys felt like you, you come off like you've known each other for years. And I told Matt too off air a few weeks back. I said Tyler really likes you because he gives you a bunch of shit and you give it right back. It's awesome.
Yes, yes. It's like we've known each other a long time. Um, and people that know me, like I'm very open about things. I still remember years ago one of my first conversations with David on this show was leading up to the show. I said, David, what would you think if I invited a girl over for a movie and told her, "Hey, you want to stick around in the morning for breakfast?" And he's like, "That's a little forward, man. Like, it's a little too forward. A little aggressive." But he loved it, and like it kind of got clicked in his head, like, "Oh, these guys are fun. They're a good time. And like." And Matt, he's gelled in just like that ever since. So in that same asset. So
We used to
nonetheless,
have a dating, didn't we have like a dating column advice early on in one of the earlier shows? Maybe we need to bring that back. Like people sending their dating questions and just kind of go from there. Like we did that early on in 21.
oh yes, yes. Um,
And David would give his best dating advice. It was pretty hilarious.
yeah, there's some things that David said about his relationship that weren't so great either. Um, yeah, if you know, you know. I think Dom probably knows what I'm referring to, the infamous Jennifer Aniston comment. Uh,
All that he made on the show, yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
I
that was
do.
ideal. If you know, you know. Before we go, guys, what's everybody got going on in the next few weeks of the off season? How we enjoying ourselves here? Starting with you, Dom.
Yeah, so working on a NASCAR project with a book and going to work a little more on that this off season. I'm looking forward to sharing more of that with you guys. Also working on a fun little project. Matt got looped in. Tyler, I think I've shared this with you off air, but a little comeback on my old YouTube channel with my son. They say never. And there's some cool stuff in the works that we're doing this off season. And I'm going to need your help a little bit, Tyler. So I'll fill you in more on that off air. But Matt's already helped me out with one of it. And yeah, a lot of cool, fun things that are going to be in the works for sure. But of course, spending family time and just trying to make the most out of that. So just the balance of everything, life's in a good spot.
Very cool. Very cool. That's great to see. How about you, Dom? Or how about you, Matt?
Yeah, just chasing sponsors to be honest with you. This whole off season is going to be about trying to make the most of it, um, and trying to come up with some kind of a program for next year because would like to do some more racing. So, trying hard for that, trying hard for honestly Daytona would be on the bucket list. So, anybody out there listening, I'm not going to throw my phone number out there, but we go to mattcampracing.com and uh, get hooked up and do something. But no, hopefully we'll be meeting up again here pretty soon for after the lawsuit. Maybe talk about that a little bit. But other than that, plan on just going to work and doing my best to make something happen for race season next year. How about you, Tyler?
So now that we've started this website, I got work to do. I'm going to certainly be busy with Roundtable NASCAR and uh, hoping for every press release I can get in hand throughout the off season to make the days go by. So Matt, if you got any news you want to announce or any press releases, send it my way. I'll gladly put it on the website and give you that publicity. We'll take all the
There we
content we
go.
get at this point,
And look at us
even
go.
for Matt Kemp. So that's what I'll be doing over the next few weeks, spending time with family and all that. And I will. We have some cool stuff to announce soon. There is somebody that's been associated with this show that Dominic knows very, very almost too well. That is going to be teaming up with us. That we're excited to share with over at Roundtable. So stay tuned for that, among other things. But definitely some exciting stuff ahead, and with that, and yeah, and I'm all over college football now. But this time of year, Oklahoma. Trying to make the college football playoff, needs to win their final three games, needs to win out, and if they do, they'll be in the postseason. And I could have a very busy December even though the NASCAR offseason has been going on, trying to cover a team competing for a national championship. So, doing my best Marty Smith, I guess, potentially. So that's what's going on in my world. Guys, a lot of fun. Love doing this show each and every week. We will let you know soon when we will be back, so stay tuned. Subscribe to Let's Go Racing. New episodes out on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media on X and Facebook. That's another thing, too. I'm going to be working on trying to get my X back. My account got hacked. And still have not heard from X support yet. I'm getting my account back. So don't follow my account or answer any DMs, but go follow the show account, in the meantime. And then check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, Let's Go Racing, as well as the Jones Report, Coach Mono's podcast, and all podcast platforms. For Matt Kemp, Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.